It's a book about the brain, about madness, about mindfulness, I think. And
Which one do you think it's about?
I think it's about all three,
All right.
actually. And I think it's about a fourth as well, but you told me it wasn't about that. I think it's also about your own depression. But you don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
I'll explain to you.
yeah,
Okay.
please do, yeah.
Do you want me to explain now?
Yeah, well, I can also say that in the Netherlands we are a bit backward when it comes to your
Don't
depression.
put yourself down, really.
Well-
Backwards, yes, but as far as my depression, no.
Okay.
Okay.
So please explain.
All right, I'll explain. Well, I did a show that's never come here, but hopefully it will, that was a little bit about depression, but a comedy. Do you know about this show? Okay, yeah, one woman knows. So I'll tell you how that started, is that I never told anybody I had depression. P.S. It has nothing to do with being in show business. It's 1 in 4 people in the world. So if it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's you. So it's 1 in 4, so I never told anybody, but then Comic Relief, do you know Comic Relief? They asked if they could use my picture for a mental illness charity, and I said okay, and I thought it was going to be really tiny, but instead they put a gigantic poster of me in the tube station that said, "This woman has mental illness, please help her." So I was mortified, and I hurled myself in front of it. But then it turned out they were everywhere, all over London, so I thought, this is true. I thought, you know what? I'm going to write a show and make that look like it's my publicity poster. So I did. And otherwise, I never would have done this. Then I toured mental institutions for 2 years. And, well, I say in the show that if you can make a schizophrenic laugh, you're halfway to Broadway. And then I had many more. But they loved the show, I think. They weren't always facing me. But they loved it. And then I have another line, but, you know. I say that my favorite line, do you mind me saying it, was that I used to collect my favorite line because these people were extraordinary. And my favorite was I was in a men's lock-in, you know, high security for, you know, the big boys, psychopaths. And so I was standing next to my husband, and this man came over and he said, "I'm your biggest fan. Which one of you is Ruby Wax?" So that was that one. Anyway, so then I took the show to real theaters with normal people, whatever that is, and it's been to Australia and to Cape Town and to America and to, where am I going, Boston next week? Well, that's in America. So I travel all over, and then in the second half of the show, the audience get to ask questions, and so I noticed that the whole audience would ask questions that weren't that far off from the mental institutions. So I thought, well, I'll write a book, not for the 1 in 4, but for the 4 in 4, because we all seem to have the same plumbing, and we all have those voices, those critical voices, that, you know, you gotta, you didn't, you screwed up. Nobody ever in any of my shows, and maybe there's here somebody tonight who could prove me wrong, has a voice that says, "What a wonderful thing I'm doing here, and may I say how attractive I am today." Maybe there's somebody, but so that's why I wrote the book, because then I researched what is our malaise as human beings rather than the mentally ill. So the first part of the book is for the normal mad, and then there's a short chapter on the mad band, because I have to include my people, and then I go on to explain how the brain works in a moronic kind of, you know, translator from the real brilliant men to the moron, you know. So I'm good at making it bite-sized and flipping it into being humorous, otherwise what's the point of me? And then at the end I tell you how to regulate, or what's known in, as far as brain research, how you can regulate your own brain, because in a minute you won't be able to afford a therapist or medication, so it's got to be the next zeitgeist. So that's why I was interested. Finished. Next question.
Well, thank you for that. So we're finished
Cleared
with the
it
topic
out.
of your depression.
No,
right
I don't
now.
mind. I could discuss it for years.
Okay.
But it, just so you know, it's not in, it's
Yeah,
not in this
yeah,
book.
yeah.
It might, it's a little in this
It's
book.
a little in this
Yeah.
book. It's
It's-
just short of 30 pages, I think,
Yeah,
or
25.
Yeah.
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 Because I am the poster girl for mental illness in England.
you are. Were you in time with that show? Did you make the show while the posters were still hanging there in the tube stations? Or
no, I made my own poster, but it was not dissimilar to that one.
That's great.
It was like a
That's
Prozac
lovely.
in my mouth, and I was going,
wow.
which was the poster.
That's great.
Yeah, it's great.
So basically you think we are all mad. We are the 4 in 4.
No, I don't say we're all mad. I
Okay.
just say there is no normal. And not especially you.
Well, thank you.
No, because you've got a grin on your face.
Yeah,
it's just
I know.
stuck there, yeah.
I was just relieved.
I know. I'm not saying everybody's mad. I'm just saying maybe hundreds of years ago, people knew their place. You know, I was a peasant. There was a king. You know, my life was to, breed and plow and die. Shit happens. But now we believe in entitlement, that we can have everything. You know, because the newspapers and magazines say, come on, they're tempting you. Anybody could have anything. And so it always leads to heartbreak. This is why there are girls who want to be supermodels, with those red blood nails with the diamantes, and they ignore the fact that they're the size of Tibet. And people who want to go on the X Factor who have the talent of a toothpick. Everybody wants it. And we're made, we're lured by this kind of piece of meat that we can have it all. So we've tipped over. We aren't satisfied with our lot. It's not our fault. It's just the way things are.
Basically, we're not fit to live in the 21st century.
No, that's what my book is. Yeah. We're not equipped to deal with the 21st century because it's too fast and it's too hard and it's too full of fear. I just think we don't have the bandwidth. So I'm not complaining about it. It's a fantastic thing. But also, we have to realize we have to pull the brakes because it's not going to. So it's understanding what happens in our brains, that, evolution meant well, but it didn't know we were going to go this far. It didn't know that suddenly we'd have incoming from everywhere at the flip of a button, because our brain can't tell the difference if there's a predator right behind us or there's some danger 20,000 miles away. So that's why we're in a constant state of alarm, because it's I need to know that there's an earthquake in Dong Fong Dong or a shark attack in Malawi. Why do I need to know this? My theory is you only have to know about the people next door to you. Like if the woman next door to me is having sex with the man next door to her, I have to know that.
Yeah, of course.
But 4 doors down,
Yeah.
I shouldn't care. I should let it go. Let it go. I mean, why, unless you're going to go to, wherever there's dead brain, Nebraska, with, because they've had a flood with a bucket and a hand pump. Shut up. Do something about it.
But our brain is still wired to worry about that.
Yeah, it's still incoming. It's being bombarded all the time.
Yeah, and we do not only worry about those earthquakes on the other side of the world, but we also worry about ourselves. We have these critical voices all the time in our heads.
But there's a reason why you have the critical voices.
Why do we have the critical voices?
Yeah, this is what I learned at university, and some of this I'm making up. We have the critical voices because, when we were still in the bush with the body hair, we were always vigilant like every other animal, looking around. You know how your cat looks around? It's always waiting for bad news, otherwise it would be eaten by the next incoming predator. So it's always looking, when language came online about 50,000 years ago, we had those sensations, but we put words to it. So it's translating the sensation of, oh my God, look out, I'm going to get killed. Even you're a failure, which is one of my themes, people are going to find out you're a fraud. It's meaning well, it wants you to kind of straighten up and fit in with the rest of the herd. I mean, my mother used to say, not that everybody has the voice of their mother, but it doesn't help. My mother used to say, I'm telling you you're a moron because I'm your mother and I love you. So, some of us, even your parents, they meant well. Don't suck on the dog spoon, don't put your finger in a socket. They meant well, but it leaves us in a kind of state of slight paranoia because evolution doesn't care about your happiness. It only cares about your survival. So that's pretty much why I think we have this incoming. It's supposed to keep us on our toes, but again, because there's so much, we have this button in our heads called the amygdala, which is our alarm system. It never comes down. It never shuts down. And when that's up, the voices are really incoming. So some of us really obey, those voices going, do this, gotta do. I mean, I wake up in the morning with a to-do list, like, buy shampoo, declaw the cat with more urgency than Obama has when he's deciding whether to bomb Syria. Buy cat, go to dry cleaner. It's endless.
Yeah.
Voices, yeah. But everybody has it. Ask them.
Do you have that? Is there anybody without those
Without
voices?
a shopping list.
Could they please stand up? I
Okay.
think you're right.
Yeah.
I think this proves you're right.
Well, otherwise you'd be a mushroom. So we need a certain amount of stress. It's just
Yeah.
that we don't know our tipping point. And so people are burning out more than they ever did, I think.
Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with depression. Let's just keep that in a box.
That's another. That's the
That's a whole nother world, yeah.
the normal way of being a bit mad, and depression is the one in four. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, depression is like the illness that
It's
has
an illness.
really very little to do with stress.
yeah.
Yeah.
And just because you mentioned your cat, I want to jump a bit forward to
You want
the
to talk about my
mindfulness thing.
cat?
Yeah, just a tiny bit, because in your book
I
you
only
mentioned
started being interested in cats recently because when your hormones change, you can tell because you start to like cats more and more. When I was very fertile, I didn't really like cats, but I'm now at the cat phase of my life.
I don't think I've
don't
ever
like to
been not in the cat phase of my life.
Well,
but
then your hormones left early.
I know. But in your book you mentioned that if you're a bit stressed out, you tend to visualize your cat in the salad bowl, and that's a part.
Please don't make my book that shallow. Please don't. No, we're jumping ahead. I talk about ways to regulate, which now...
I know, this is...
Yeah.
I'm
So
jumping very much ahead.
You've jumped to the last page.
I know, yeah.
Are you in a hurry here?
I just like the image of the cat in the
I know,
salad
but
bowl so
that's
much.
not the advice I give.
Let's jump back.
Let's go back and
let's
then
go
you'll see
back.
why I'm so flippant. But yes, I do picture my cat rolled up in a salad bowl, and it makes me happy. It doesn't solve all my problems, but it makes me smile bemusedly to myself.
Well,
Yeah, if you picture it, it won't work. So let's pretend we never said that.
we'll get to that, I think. Apart from the critical voices in your head, there's another thing that makes us all a bit mad. I think it's we all want a quick fix in this society, and you describe how you get up in the morning and you want not only shampoo, but you also want blue and white striped cushions, and you.
Well, no,
want
there's a
scenery.
hierarchy of Western needs, which is like food, water, economy class, business first, private jet with a jacuzzi, and then going on Oprah.
Yeah. And,
That's hierarchy of Western needs.
and
And there's a reason I'm talking about the book, why we can never get enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what is
again,
that reason?
it's not our fault.
oh, that's fortunate.
Yeah.
And-
It's because, everybody ignores it, but the voices in your head are not who you are. And the fact...
So who are they?
Well, okay, it's a feature, but there's a kind of billion gigawatt watt piece of machinery that's has more power than every supercomputer that ever was squared, that you'll never know about. You don't know how to turn amino acids into glucose. You don't know how, you just have that stupid voice saying you're too fat to wear tights. There's most of what's going on in here you will never know, so get over yourself. So what makes us want more is very positive. Otherwise, we'd still be, a two-celled amoeba sticking onto a worm. But the selfish gene, we want to keep going. And again, it's the reason we foraged. It's the same oomph that made us, gather nuts. And while we were gathering, before we even swallowed, we were looking around for there were more nut terrains to plan. But now, there's no planning, it's the foraging, there's no reason for it because it's all in your face and it's all open 24 hours a day. That's why there's 40,000 miles of shopping mall, big steaming mounds of Galleria going, come on, buy me. So, and then the reason for that is because we have a chemical that makes you achieve, that makes you go get. Of course, people think it's because I'm thinking about it. It isn't, there's an undercurrent. it's the machinery, it's the neurons and the chemicals that push you on. I mean, it is the hormones that make you do what you do.
Yeah.
So, like, if you don't believe me, think about sex for a few minutes. Okay, I'll give you time, it's okay. See, it's the hormones that really do the action. Like, if your hormones dry up, if you like cats, then you can think all you want and you ain't going anywhere. So it's those thrusters, to make it easy. Like, there's a thing, there's about 100 different chemicals in us, and we're all different cocktails of different ingredients. I mean, I am addicted to adrenaline, that's my hit. So I like to sometimes call a taxi, and when it comes to pick me up, for the airport, then I start packing, because I like that hit. And the other one, other people have serotonin. I have none of this. I have to go to a drugstore to get that. And then those people like us, the pushing, it got me success, but it also burnt me out, is that dopamine. And that really is the hunting thing. And when we get something, we automatically want more. It's really addictive. And so we're all kind of junkies. If we can't get that buzz, you'll do anything for the next buzz. You'll sell your mother. Because we are walking drugstores, really. We're shooting ourselves up with our own chemicals. You cannot stop. And especially when so much is available, we pass that tipping point again. Because we get competitive. I think, oh, well, if she's got that, I'm going to get that. We don't even want it.
Yeah.
But it's that drive. But there are ways to pull those chemicals down.
Yeah. And
most of it is being aware that you have those chemicals. Yeah.
That's something you did because you started to study in psychology first, and then in mindfulness.
Are you hot?
No, but I'm.
Okay,
I've got
that's
less
because I like
clothing on than you.
cats.
I know.
Okay.
My husband is in this room. I mean.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable?
Yeah, I might take
Great.
my jacket off in a minute.
Yeah, you
Okay.
should.
Okay, I will. But I don't look good in these stripes, so I'll just put
It's
this
lovely.
over here. Then over there. Okay. I know what people are looking at. Okay. There.
That's gorgeous.
Thank you.
You made the study of psychology and of mindfulness, and that's how you sort of came to write a manual of the brain in this book. And it's one of the most humorous texts about the human brain I've ever read. It's a sort of mixture of comedy and
Accuracy.
Accuracy, thank you. And why do you think that people never write with humor about the brain? Because I don't think it's ever been done before. I've read quite a lot about the brain.
I don't think it would occur to somebody to do that. I think it's unusual for somebody who's a comedy writer to go back to school and then study the brain. I think that might be peculiar.
Yeah.
But I suddenly got overwhelmed with an interest in it. I mean, I was studying psychology at Berkeley, but then you couldn't look into a live brain. You could only look in a corpse, and that's of no interest.
Yeah.
But 10 years ago, you could actually take a brain scanner and watch how somebody thinks, and I thought, this is way more interesting than psychotherapy, because I want the real meat. I don't like fluffy things. I want to look at, if I can smell it or look at it or taste it, then it's real. Okay, call me crazy. If somebody asks me what my star sign is, I'm going to offend everybody. I smile politely and say, we should get together, but really I'm crossing their name out of my address book. I can't really. We're 2013 and people are still buying books about hugging your inner elf. Thank you, person. What sign are you? Fuck.
It's probably an Aquarius.
So, science and research know all this stuff. For some reason, it's not coming down to us. We're just getting the information about how to dance with a whale. So I thought, well, I'm going to go to school and find out, because in my lifetime I'd like to know about why my brain does this. So then I thought, well, I'll find out from research what are the best methods of getting down the cortisol, controlling it yourself. Because here's something else I don't think a lot. There's neuroplasticity. It isn't, Sleeping Beauty. It isn't. It does exist. We now know that this is very malleable. You can change your brain by how you think. I mean, they can actually look in and see a vast number of neurons. When you do a habit over and over again, same thing, or you think the same way, they lock in. And so they wire together. And so it's not really your personality, it's your habits. Like if I'm always aggressive and it works for me, I'm going to always take this. It's not who I am, it's just I got in the habit of it. It's like smoking. But now they know that if you intentionally realize that you're caught in that habit and you just hold it back a little bit and notice it, when you notice it, it starts to unwire. And then you form new habits that maybe are a little more beneficial and make you more flexible. But this isn't something I learned on a weekend. This is actually what's going on. So with that kind of hope, I thought I can rewire myself because my wiring is screwed. I thought, well, I'll find out how you do this. So the results were, I didn't look for it. I wasn't interested in mindfulness or cognitive therapy. I hadn't been studying it, but those have the best results.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I'll study that. So I went to Mark Williams, who was the founder of mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, and he said, he told me about it, but I said, I want to know what happens in the brain, and he said, well, unfortunately, you'll have to get into Oxford. And so I have a lot of dopamine and adrenaline, so that was my next mission. It was like a Rottweiler with a piece of, bone in front of it, so I found some grades that were okay, and I crossed out my SAT scores, which were that of a houseplant. I think I said that on the college show, terrible. And so, but I give really good interview, believe it or not.
Well,
yeah. So I got into Oxford, and then when I got there, all the people in my class looked at me like I was an encounter with a third kind, but I was in, so I became really fascinated. But in my course, you didn't just study the brain, you had to learn how to regulate the brain. And so I found mindfulness really interesting.
is it about thinking different thoughts, like choosing your thoughts, or is it someone else something else that interested you? You just spoke about neuroplasticity. Is that basically learning to think different thoughts than you were used to think, or?
Well, if you could do that, you wouldn't have to do anything. Like just go, oh, I wish I could think different thoughts.
Yeah.
That'll end you in a mental institution. So, do you want me to explain what it is? I mean, it's not so, it's not so out of this world. It's actually pretty technical, but you have to practice it, and that's a bitch because everybody wants a pill and it's over. So it's like going to a gym. You can't do one sit-up and you got a six-pack. So unfortunately, we have to work at this. But I mean, in England, when I got there, everybody's in a gym now 5 days a week. When I got to England, people weren't even brushing their teeth.
Yeah.
And now people need it, they go to work. They need a six-pack because they're going to do a Lynx commercial in the afternoon. I don't understand. So, so with the brain now, this is the thing that'll kill you. This will make you live longer. You can run as much as you want. It'll, obviously, it might be good for you. I mean, you need aerobics, but it's not going to, it doesn't stop aging, and it doesn't stop senility. Whereas if you really keep your mind flexible, and keep being, I'm not talking about Alzheimer's because that is a disease again. This is again like somebody saying, does depression apply to people in show business? No, Alzheimer's is only for people who work on airplanes. So, sorry, it's just my,
I know.
Yeah. So, so cooling down the engines.
Yeah. And
can be done by this mindfulness. Is that where I was going?
Yeah.
Tell me, I drifted off.
But
I fell asleep for a minute. Sorry. No, I didn't.
But how do you practice it? What do you do?
Okay, so when you have those nagging voices, they're on all the time, most of the time. Sometimes we have a moment's peace, but usually they're on. You're never going to shut them off. If your mind is empty, you're dead, okay? So if you see nothing up there, you better start finding some shovels, because you're dead. So what you do is the thoughts go in front of you. Let me see if I can explain this well. They're still going, but there's a part of your brain that you can take a back seat and watch them. Just go along with me on this. So they're not like, you're not in the slipstream of go get the shampoo, go get that. We used to believe that. Oh, I must get that. And then you become a fanatic. If you sort of watch them, you start to notice that they're more like the weather, that something is so important, but actually if you're just watching, it goes. And you notice it's like traffic. It goes, there's heavy ones, there's angry ones, there's light ones. And that's not all you do, though. But you notice that maybe it's not something solid. Same with feelings. If you really go in and feel, do I feel love or pain or whatever, you go in rather than run away, and you realize it changes. But the way the actual method you use, let me just say, it's not about vegging out, that you just sit there and watch your thoughts, because the ones of us who really do well, we have those brains that go on turbo, and we really, you really want to chew over a problem, or you want to create. That's the best we can be as human beings. That's at our best when we're, making the world a better place to live in, or we're coming up with something that gives us pleasure. But again, we don't know the tipping point where it's no longer good for us. It actually backfires, and you trip up on yourself and you burn out. And you have different kinds of thinking, which we're not even aware of. There's rumination, where you try to answer questions like, why did my boyfriend leave me? Why am I too fat? Not hot enough? We'll never answer that. So that's another type. Then there's mind wandering. Some Harvard research said we spend 47% of our time mind wandering, and it isn't, and we're not really happy doing it. It makes you miserable. So with the mindfulness, you can kind of choose, like say, I don't want to be mind wandering. I don't want to finish another book and get to the end and think, what did I just read? So the idea of mindfulness is it exercises your attention. It helps you focus on what you want to focus on, just like, muscles, and it helps you take the focus to where you want to be. So everybody says, what do you mean attention? I pay attention. I go, oh yeah, well, eat a piece of chocolate, okay? You taste it at the first bite. By the third bite, you're somewhere in Czechoslovakia. People are gone. You tell kids to pay attention. They don't know what it means. So our minds are used to going into the future, into the past, on. That's how it's our habit. And it's to keep us, again, going. But nature didn't give us the braking system. We have to learn that, like you have to learn calculus. So the practice you do, in order to do that, and it's unbelievably physical, is that when you notice there's too much incoming, right? That's because your amygdala's on. That's it. Plain and simple, the amygdala's on, your cortisol levels are up, and the voices really go because you're agitated, and you're trying to figure out, what should I do? Where should I go? But there's another part of your brain, which you can see in a brain scanner, you don't have to buy it on Amazon, that we all have, which is, you're using it. You're using that part of the brain when you feel like you have a stomach ache or a pain in your foot, or you trip on your toe. It's interoception. It's where you feel inside, or you feel the chair that it's uncomfortable, or you feel your clothes, that they're itchy. That's your insula. The minute you send attention to something physical, like really listening, there really is sound. It's not your imagination. There really is the feel of, your seat on the seat. There really is whenever you send that attention into your body to something specific, the amygdala automatically goes down. So if the insula is working, the voices get quieter. If the insula isn't working, the voices get... It's like a car that can't be in 2 gears at once, and you can still drive it. So in a sense, you're sort of tricking your brain. That's what you can see in a scanner, and that's probably what happens with cognitive therapy, is that you're thinking about thinking, and then the voices take over. And that exercise, even if you do it a few minutes a day, is strengthening this insula so that when the shit really hits the fan, you can kind of maybe anchor down and let it go over you a little bit. You can't just do it in case there's an emergency. So just for when I'm waiting for a bus, or when I'm waiting, when you're doing nothing, instead of looking at your watch, because that won't make time go any faster, strangely, sometimes I just say, where am I? It really is going, okay, I'm standing on my feet. I'm focused on this, or I'm listening. And you just watch how your mind grabs you back. You think, well, what am I thinking? Usually I'm thinking, I got to write another email, another email, another email. You just notice it, and instead of giving yourself a hard time, because that's where the voices come in, we start being stressed about stress. And somebody says it's like sending in another arrow. You weren't in pain enough. Now you have to really give it to yourself. And there's an expression, pain is pain, but suffering is optional. So you learn to not add the layer of fear on fear. You just watch it. You go, okay, it's what I'm thinking. That's okay. This is the hard part. And then you go back to just feeling the ground, feeling your feet on the ground. Or eating, you really taste it. Or reading a book, you really read the book. And you just do that a little bit. You can't do that all day. You'll go nuts. And don't do it while you're driving, because you'll crash the car. But just a few minutes a day means that when you go, it's like recharging a battery, you bring the cortisol down, they can see that when somebody is doing this kind of thing. It comes down, the amygdala comes down, and then when you need your power back, you can go much faster than anybody else because you don't have the red mist in your head. You know, this is another thing that I don't understand why people don't know. When you're stressed, you're not just stressed, you're killing neurons in the hippocampus, a part of your brain where you store memory, and that's why when kids are taking an exam and they're stressed, they go blank. You are rendered an idiot when you're stressed. So people that go to meetings and they think they're having a meeting and now they've locked antlers, they're not going to make any more sense. And we should learn to hold up a white flag and say, I'm completely screwed, I'll see you in 10 minutes. But, you know, we think, okay, I'm getting angrier and angry, and we infect each other. You know, like if I get nervous, you'll get nervous. It's like neural Wi-Fi. It goes right through the room. So if I can bring it down, those hormones, you'll feel a lot better. It's a really remarkable thing how they watch how somebody in a scanner affects the next person in it, because we have those mirror neurons. So
it's contagious. So
it's
your feelings are contagious.
We're contagious. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, if you were getting uptight, I would start to really get nervous. So there's different things I could do. I could either call it, or do something to cool you down, just something. Once you understand the state of somebody else, you can do something about it, but usually you're too busy thinking, God, they hate me. They just think I'm an idiot. And we're all locked into this kind of, the worst reviews you will ever give yourself are from yourself. Worst reviews you'll ever get. Nobody is as mean to ourselves as we are.
And you just said it's very hard to practice it because you probably you start popping out all the time and you start. Oh, you hate it.
It's just horrible. But it's horrible to do a sit-up too.
Yeah.
Especially when you're out of shape.
Yeah.
You got to go. Oh God, I've got to do. So it's hard to sit there. You're waiting for a bus and just to go. Okay, I'm just going to hear sound, or I'm going to taste this grape all the way to when I swallow it. That already is doing unbelievable things physiologically in your brain. That's what you have to understand. Yeah. It's not just, you're not just eating. There's neurons that are wired together, and just by observing them, the neurons unwire. And that's how you keep a really resilient brain.
And do you visualize that while eating the grape, for example? Or
no, because then you're back in your head. What you want to do is, when you can't think and have sense at the same time. The minute you're sensing something, that's why I like scuba diving, because I can feel the water and my brain goes into, I'm just one with the fish. You're actually in the present.
Yeah.
And that's something none of us know how to do. It happens by accident.
Yeah.
When you see a picture, or you're suddenly there, but we visit it by accident. So this is a real way, if you want to make it one of your repertoire and your destinations. You can't taste a grape yesterday or tomorrow. You can only do it right now. So I say this in the book, sometimes I'm with my kids and I miss their childhood completely. They say, what was I like at 4? And I go, well, you were short. I have no idea, because I couldn't get off the telephone. They thought I had earmuffs, made out of metal, and I couldn't get off. And sometimes I'd fake it. Like I swear this is true, I had a speaker when I pretended to be Santa with a beard, so they couldn't see the speaker. Well, they did catch me. And so I thought, well, I can't miss any more of this. So with this practice, sometimes I can get that lid down of the computer and then really focus and hear them. And they can tell now I can hear them. And I can remember what they're saying. So I sort of did it for my kids, because I didn't want to miss any more of my life. Because if you think 50% is spent mind wandering, that means 50% you're not alive.
Yeah.
So.
I'm surprised that mind wandering wouldn't be more positive.
What?
Well, mind wandering, if you just say the word, it sounds like such a positive thing. You're just sitting there and doing a bit of daydreaming.
But you need all of this isn't. I'm making it sound. You need stress, otherwise you don't put the gear in. You need mind wandering, but it's when you get lost in it, and then like 3 days have gone by, and you say, "How did I get here?" Obviously, you missed something.
Yeah.
So it does, when they do ask people, it does make them miserable, because they don't know where they were.
And this is the difference between the doing mode and the being mode, as you call it.
Yeah, but that's too fluffy, Okay. I mean, I know what it means.
Yeah.
Doing is when you're in full drive turbo, which is a good place to be.
Yeah.
But again, if you go too much.
Yeah.
I can't, these people that like jog at 5 o'clock in the morning and they work 77 hours a day, and I think, God, I must be such an idiot. Because I can't jog I can't jog at 8 o'clock at night. So we're always giving ourselves more of a hard time. Like, I'm so angry, I'm not blonde and tall like you.
Well, and you had to be here at 8 o'clock tonight, so you couldn't jog.
No,
that's
but also the fact that I think, you've got things going that I don't. That, of course, it's going through, but I'm not going to act on it as I would have many years ago. I would have clawed your eyes out.
Well, thank you.
So you see how evolved I am now?
I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, and also, part of the neurons locking you into habits is that you see people the way they're a reflection of your memory. Like every time we don't see somebody for the first time, if I look at somebody, I'll go back into the kind of file of facts of who you remind me of, because that's how we work. Are you safe or should I mate with you? It's pretty much what we're distinguishing. So actually you're holding somebody ransom to your first impression, and you lock them in. I mean, our minds are bigots. So what you want to do is, break that narrowness open, and the only way to do is to kind of question it, to say, wait a minute, you got this person wrong. This is just my habit. That's actually not... I married my husband because he had the eyebrows of Jeff Bridges, and then I realized he wasn't really Jeff,
Yeah.
I knew there was some reason I liked him.
So what did you do?
Well, I kept him because, Jeff was too old. But, people say 10 years after they get married, oh, that wasn't the person I thought they were. Well, they never were.
Yeah.
Does this make sense?
It does, yeah. I'm just thinking of Jeff Bridges now, but I'm not...
You know how
getting
he had those kind of cute eyebrows. So I married my husband because he had those, I thought, I'm attracted to Ed. It was Jeff. It's okay, he's not here. He's not going to know. I've never told him, so don't call my house.
Are we putting this on the internet?
Oh, fuck. Is it on the internet?
I don't know, actually.
No, it can't be. It'll ruin my relationship at home.
Well, maybe we can cut this part out. You also give an alternative in your book or several alternatives for people who don't want to practice mindfulness or who don't think it's for them.
Yeah. Because it isn't for everybody.
It isn't for everybody. No. Who isn't it for?
Well, somebody who, I don't like yoga because I don't see the point of kissing my behind from both directions. But other people think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we have taste. I don't like, So say somebody really finds it irritating to listen, or they don't want to follow their own breathing because it's too spooky. So then they can do cognitive therapy. I talk about that, where you work with somebody and start to see, is this the way I always react?
Yeah.
Or is this really the truth?
Yeah.
They always say if a person goes by and you say hi and they ignore you, if you think every time it's because they hate my guts, it's probably coming from your head.
Yeah.
And then some people say, oh, she just didn't see me. Well, they don't need mindfulness or anything because they're well adjusted. But if you keep thinking, well, she hates my guts, and she doesn't want to speak, which I would, then we need help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cognitive therapy is where you write that down. You write down, this happened, I felt this.
Yeah, and you say, I felt it 90%. And when you actually analyze, well, maybe there are other possibilities. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she had something to do. Then you start again opening the neurons. There's other possibilities.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, no, that's what my father was crazy. No, I'm right. That's the way it is. Or I walk.
Yeah.
That's the way the world is.
Yeah.
That's a sign of madness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you try the cognitive therapy? Was it wasn't for you? Or
Mindfulness-based cognitive therapy.
Yeah.
So it was both.
So you do parts of it and.
Yeah, they swing between the two.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do mindfulness because you don't have to pay a shrink. Because I got sick of that.
Yeah.
I have no money left. I've given it to the psychiatric world.
And now you're your own shrink?
Now, well, you do what a shrink would do, which is when you're with a shrink. You throw your crap at them. You tell them what's in your mind. And because they contain you and they're compassionate, you forgive yourself. They're like the mommy that you always wanted. Yeah. And so you think, oh, well, maybe everybody's like this. Maybe this isn't so bad. And that kind of, again, unlocks that hard locking, that wiring. And that's what a shrink pretty much does. It doesn't matter what technique they're using.
Yeah.
So with mindfulness, part of you is watching the crap, But then you're learning to kind of be kind. Don't give myself a hard time. Of course, that's what I think. It's okay. Go back to the anchor. The reason you need the anchor is if you keep listening to your mind, you'll get caught again.
And an anchor is like the breath or the...
Or you're feeling you're behind, then it's going to pull you up. You're going to watch, you need to know how you think. And you say, oh, I'm in that theme again. I'm in that everybody hates me theme. I'm in that. Okay, this time I'm not going to give myself a hard time. It's just my theme song. Down you go again. And then it'll pull you up and then down. Otherwise, with the shrink, you're throwing your garbage at them. They're absorbing it. Now you got to go somewhere, otherwise you'll get caught again.
Yeah.
God, I hate myself. And you know why I hate myself? Because I'm too fat. And you know why I'm too fat? Because I ate too much at dinner. And then at dinner, oh God, I should have fed my dog. I didn't feed my dog. Maybe I should get another car. And that will go on for 300 years.
Yeah, yeah. And so basically you've learned to be your own good mother, to be a good mother to yourself.
Well, even when I hear my mother's voice, which now I do forgive my mother, because she must have had real screaming in her head, because how we scream at ourselves is how we treat other people. If there's screaming going on, you're going to give the next person hell because you think that's how you see the world.
Yeah.
Your thoughts really indicate how you see the world. Now, again, the horror is that you have to know that. You have to see what you're thinking. But if you don't look in, it's there anyway. You know how people are passive-aggressive? Or people who do the triathlon and think they can outrun their demons? Well, someday they have to put their gym shoes up, and then it'll really hit them. So better to know the devil early and kind of, say, okay, everybody's like this. Everybody's as screwed as you are. And that's the only way I can forgive myself.
How about
Is that bad?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good.
That's...
Okay, it would mean my whole book was wrong.
Yeah. That would have been bad if we had gotten to that
Can you imagine? I go, oh my God, I got it wrong.
Yeah, I know. And then here in Amsterdam...
Yeah, a blonde did it again.
We would have something to put in the newspaper then.